Welcome to the Mantasy Fantasy Podcast.
Introducing James Full Frontal Weingan.
And I'm David All Day Dong Pemberton.
Brought to you by our sponsors. Stay Free MaxiPad. When you have your monthly boo-boo, put one of these near your hoo-hoo. All right, David, well, let's lead off with our off-season news.
Yes, let's. Okay,
So what happened?
Let's start with the big question marks coming in off the off-season. Let's start with Peyton Manning. James, how do you feel about him, bud?
Sketchy. Real sketchy. I don't think he's going to do as well as he did 2 years ago. Last year, he kind of fell off.
But it's Peyton Manning. The
I
man
mean,
is.
How old is he now?
I think he's 30.
39?
I think he's 72. He just filed for Social Security.
Seriously.
He is about 38, 39.
And I just read that they sold out all their games this season for season ticket holders.
That doesn't shock me. I would totally buy a ticket to see Manning. He's like watching a god among mere mortals.
I don't know. I just think last year he didn't produce as well as he did 2 years ago when his first year in
Whoa.
in
He
Denver.
did produce well. It's just, it fell off.
Not to our expectations, I guess.
I will give you that. When you have a season like he did for Jansen, which of all people he had to have it for Jansen, of course you're going to expect bigger things when he comes into the next season. And I think the thing that really put the marker on, especially for us, was the fact that he not only did he just decline at the end of the season, but one of them happened against our beloved Bengals.
Yeah.
And that was a glorious, glorious win.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome seeing that happen. But I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical about him this year.
Where do you think he will be drafted among quarterbacks?
I mean, he'll easily go top 5, I think. Easily.
Do you think first 3 rounds?
Yeah. I say maybe second round. Maybe late second round.
I'm saying he goes late, probably 4th, 5th round.
Really?
Yes. All right, let's move on to Adrian Peterson. This is probably the most debated first-round draft pick in a long time. 30 years old, just got in trouble for you-know-what. I'm not going to elaborate. Chris Weingan had him last year. Totally made a slickest trade I've ever seen in my life towards my brother. James, where would you be drafting AP
beautiful.
if you're in the top 10?
I'd give him probably middle pack 4 to 6, I think.
I would go even higher. I think he's
Really?
going to be picked in the top 4. I don't think your brother's going to pick him. I think it'll be interesting to see who he goes there.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Probably after 3 or 4, he'll probably get picked.
I mean, I definitely think he'll be picked. I think still a top running back.
Absolutely.
And he's got bad blood with all this stuff, so he's got something to prove.
Oh,
so.
and you look what happened in 2012. He came back with just ferociousness after he tore his ACL. What happened? Almost broke the rushing record for a single season. 7 yards short.
He's a hard-nosed, hard-working, dare I say it, gym rat.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I'd give you that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to let's move into the suspensions now.
Ooh,
Le'Veon Bell.
naughty boys.
James had him last year, and
Yeah, I
managed to
did.
somehow skip this odd transaction of him getting busted for pot, and now all of a sudden he is just now getting suspended.
I might be
4 games.
I might be the luckiest fantasy player of all time. Chad Henne a couple
know.
years ago,
Yeah.
and then this whole Le'Veon Bell thing happened, and how Josh Gordon got suspended for a year.
Yep, and just keeps falling on your plate, bud. You're somehow killing it.
Then Bell slid by last year. Now this year he's got 4 games suspended.
Where do you see him going?
I see him going late in the first round. You can't.
I think so too.
With how he did last year, he led all-purpose yards. He led passing and running backs, and he didn't lead rushing, but he was up there. He was
Absolutely.
top 5.
I think the tough thing with him though is just the fact that missing 3 games in our league is pretty epic.
Yeah.
And I could see that possibly dropping him back to the second round.
But I mean, it's the first 4, or is it 3 or 4 games?
It's 4. As of right now,
Yeah.
it's 4. And if you drop back that far, though, that really cuts into your value. Granted, he'll probably still finish in the top 10 if he stays healthy. It's just that's a real killer for a lot of people in this league.
But what's more important, the first 3 or 4 games, or the last 3 or 4 games?
Are you going to be around the last 3 or 4 games?
I mean, he'll be there weeks 5 through.
Hopefully.
13, so.
Another big suspension, obviously, my man. Actually, I can't stand the guy. What am I saying? Tom Brady.
I don't even want to talk about it. I hate him so much.
If he somehow magically gets out of this 4-game suspension,
I think he will. I think
he will too, because he's a pretty boy and he's going to get it.
He's got money.
He's got money. He's got the woman.
And the
he's got the smile.
NFL's a new FIFA.
Yes, I mean, it's embarrassing that the NFL hasn't gotten more serious about this. I mean, seriously, it'd been different had they found out about this and there wasn't really an evidence trail for it.
Yeah.
But there is, and he's not fessing up to it. And maybe if he did, I wouldn't have a problem with him getting less of a suspension.
And you think about it, he really shouldn't.
No.
But
that's the way it's going to fall.
look what happened to P. Rose. So.
Yeah. Now let's move on to some of the bigger moves and grooves of the season. Let's start with LeSean McCoy. How do you think he is going to fare in Buffalo? Do you think it's going to be an up season, a down season? I mean, he is getting on that precipice of hitting 30 and falling off that cliff. How's he going to do?
I think it'll be an average season. I think he'll get I'd say around 1,000 to 1,200 yards, maybe somewhere around there.
I see that too. I think he's going to have a better season. The only reason I say that, competition-wise, he's not going to be under Chip Kelly's offense. He didn't seem to thrive off that. He wasn't their go-to guy like he had been in previous seasons. And now he's with Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan obviously wanted him. He got him. I still say he's an elite running back. I don't know about like top 10, but I definitely see him getting drafted early second round.
I think he'll get a lot of touches because they have a pretty mean passing offense too. Their whole offense is pretty stacked besides their quarterback position.
Yes,
I think.
which is kind of sad because that's that team has been desperate to make it back to what it was in the early '90s, and hopefully they can do that with this new coach. Go Rex. Yeah. Let's move on to another big move, probably one of the biggest offensive moves. Jimmy Graham going to Seattle of all places. That team has already redonk on offense. How are they going to do with that?
They're going to be unreal now. Like he's the puzzle piece of that offense.
Well, here's the thing you need to know, though. I'm not saying he's not going to do good, but in order to get him, they traded away their star center. And I don't know if you've looked at the rankings at all, but they are dead last when it comes to offensive pass protection. Which that is going to make it not just difficult for Russell Wilson.
But he's a mobile quarterback, though. He can get out of situations.
I'll give you that, but I think that's also going to make it. I mean, in general, I think he's just going to be a touchdown guy. I don't think he's going to be the yard guy that he once was. I think he's going to be, we get to the end zone, and then we just chuck it up to him, and he jumps it and gets it and slam dunks it.
I don't know. I think I can go both ways. We don't know until we see, I guess. But I think Russell Wilson's mature enough, and he's obviously shown himself that he can get out of those situations of pressure and still stay under control.
Side note: Russell Wilson will be getting paid less unless he gets a new contract than James's main man, Chad Henne.
My boy.
It's his boy. One last big offensive move, one that Lawson sure enjoys. DeMarco Murray going to the Philadelphia Eagles. How do you think he is going to fare? Do you think he's still going to be that just absolute dominant guy that he was last year with that offensive line, playing a full season and just obliterating offense?
No way. He won't keep up with Chip Kelly's offense. He'll get less touches, and he'll probably be more tired with the way he runs his offense.
Couldn't agree more.
They literally sprint down the field after every play, and and after his injuries, his hammies, those are reoccurring. So he's definitely not going to be as good as he was last year. It was phenomenal. Let's put it that way. Phenomenal.
And not only that, but I'm not saying he's not a talented guy.
Yeah.
But I feel like you got to credit a lot of what happened last season to that offensive line. They were just ridiculous last year. And if you put, I'm not saying, again, DeMarco Murray is a talented individual, but that was the first time he played incredibly healthy for a full season, didn't have any issues, and you put that kind of lineup. That's why
you have to worry about Tony Romo and Des Bryant.
That's right.
Hooking up. So
well, not only that, but I feel like with Murray, you're going to see a repeat of McCoy. You're going to see what happened to Chip Kelly's offense. You've got three people now that are pretty solid running backs on any other team, and you've got them all vying for spot with that, almost like a college-like offense.
Yeah.
And you have, look at last year. Only competition he seriously had, or McCoy had, was probably Sproles. And now you not only have Sproles, but you also have Ryan Matthews, who granted isn't,
So what do you do in that situation with you got Sproles, Matthews, and Murray?
My guess is they're going to do the same. I foresee Matthews being their touchdown, their third down guy. I foresee DeMarco being just the yard guy. He's going to be the guy that, gets 100 yards but might get a touchdown.
I think he's just going to be, get a few yards. Go. He's like the hammer guy. Just goes through the line and tries to get yards.
But
and then on third down, I think Matthews and Sproles will come out and they'll do like a screenplay or something.
Yes,
like that.
That's what they did last season. At one point it was getting aggravating having McCoy. I know Lawson didn't enjoy that, and he actually ended up making a hell of a trade with Eugene, getting Rodgers. But he came to the realization that I can have this guy, and he's going to get me probably close to 100 total yards a game, but I could trade him off, or I could have even another running back who might not even be even remotely as close to as talented, but gets you touchdowns, gets you, the small little things that you need to add up a lot more points a lot faster. Okay, let's move on to our Mantasy Fantasy League news. And let's start with some of the new stuff that we're trying to get, implemented in the league. I know everybody kind of wants to spice it up. James, what are some of your thoughts on it, bud?
My thoughts is I'm not against it. I'm all for refreshing up the fantasy league. I'm not saying it's boring or anything, but I think just because of last year's social fallout, maybe that's why people are just kind of quick to overreact about it. But
Yeah.
I'm not against it. It'd be interesting to see and, take this to new places.
What do you think? What are some of the fixes you do like?
I like the tight end as a flex position.
Absolutely.
I think that is an amazing idea because that's what it's there for, a flex position.
And I know a lot of leagues that do that, and they tend to have success with it. Plus, I think it would give a whole new value to the tight end, and instead of them just kind of being that. I mean, I guess it would kind of devalue him even a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it'd make it a lot more competitive because it'd give you a whole other option to go to in those situations. Which, late in the season, you get down to some people where you're desperate to have a third running back or something crazy, some guy you just pray and beg that is going to get that touchdown or something like that, where you could fill in a tight end who like an Eifert or somebody like that who might get you a touchdown, get you 10 points. But yeah, I think the T flex thing would be a great addition. Any other fixes you like? Do you like the decimal scoring? Because I'm in love with that. You know what? I wasn't sold on it first.
That's surprising for you to.
But I admit that I like it. The thing that surprises me, though, and I'm going to call out a gentleman on the air right now, is Chris Weingand. You pushed for it all this time, and then you totally backed out on it. What the heck is up with that? Why are you changing your mind, Chris?
You liar.
You liar. I wish you weren't such a liar, Chris. Liar.
Pants for hire.
And then one of the other ones I think we all like, including the person I figured who wouldn't like it, Adam Lawson. I'm surprised you like the transaction cap because I've never seen. I mean, you passed those around like cigarettes in prison. It was ridiculous last season.
What was that transaction? There's 3 transactions. He picked up Marquise Colston, let's drop some running back, picked up the running back again for Marquise Colston, then dropped Vic for Marquise Colston again, and then dropped the running back again. And he just, oh my God.
I think that was in a matter of about 5 minutes, too. It was a pretty impressive move.
It's like he was Jerry Lewis. He's like, I don't know what to do.
Now, there is one of the fixes that if you don't agree with it, I'm going to call you out too. I think you need to man up, let it drop a little bit. Anybody who's against punishment for the turd, it's not going to be so embarrassing that you're going to want to throw yourself off a cliff, but it will be embarrassing. And I think we need to do that in order to force people to try a little bit harder. Not naming any names, Doug.
But how about we just do a tattoo then?
No,
I'm not trying to get up. I'm not trying to get up.
We're not doing a tattoo,
I'm trying to
James.
get.
I can't
just an
personally
idea.
for work.
I
I don't want a patient seeing some rainbow with a.
We're not going to put
out.
it on somewhere. We're going to put it on your ass cheek or something.
Oh, I like that idea. I'm all for it now. Some of the mixed things I would say that I'm on. I could warm up to it. I definitely don't want to do it this season because I feel like it's already too late. And I think in order to do that, it's something that we need to talk about more serious as a league. Is switching to the dynasty. It does sound very interesting.
The keeper league.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound interesting. I think I could be for it, but again, I'm not for it this season. I think that's one that takes the draft and complete switches. Yeah, and I'll tell you some of the stuff that I don't like. One of the things I wasn't interested in, I don't know, maybe you can explain to me, James. I'm not interested in backing the trade deadline up all the way to the playoffs. I don't like that.
I think it's fair.
How? Tell me how.
If you need someone later in the playoffs, if you say like an injury happens, say your top running back goes down.
Okay.
And so let's say you have Murray at the time, then you have Calvin Johnson as well. You're going into the playoffs, you're like, I don't have a running back. I need to, trade my top player for a running back to support your playoff team. Mm-hmm. So I think, backing trade deadline back up to the playoffs, it could be essential.
Okay. Well, my thing that I'm worried about with that is collusion between teams. That's the thing that concerns me most. And I know that we're pretty good about calling people out. It's just I feel like with having the trade deadline so far back, you're going to have people that, start to drop players and stuff like that or try to dump players onto other teams and try to, make something for themselves. Kind of getting, let's say you screwed me over early in the season. I don't like you. I'm going to try to get you by trading you. That's how I feel like that's going to end up. And that's why I like having the trade deadline a little bit earlier. One of the other things I might be interested in, but as of right now, I think it's a no-go, would be the auction draft.
Oh, no.
I'm not feeling it at all. Maybe in the future seasons we could, discuss that out, but I think some of this stuff is too big for just, 2 months to decide, we're going to do that. Because that switches the dynamic for everything. And, a lot of people, that's a huge learning curve that don't stay up on top of it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it would switch the way at this point, at least, in a not good way. James, do you have any new ideas for stuff that we should implement that hasn't been said or something you wanted to talk about?
I think I mentioned this earlier in the message boards, but as for the flex position, I might even add maybe throw out the option of a quarterback in that position.
See, I don't like that. No.
Why?
because I think you're an idiot. Moving on, the next one I do like, and I think we've all talked about this. I think the Turd Bowl bracket and also the bracket for the 5th and 6th place. I think that's something that needs to be switched to just 2 weeks. Because I feel like with the Turd Bowl thing, the first round really doesn't mean anything. No. And I think if you just did that and got it done with, and somehow, I'm sure Adam could do it too. If not, I'm sure we could come to a mutual agreement where, once you're done with those 2 weeks, your game's locked, your teams are locked, you can't add, drop anybody.
No.
And I think that would be, a good solution to that. Next topic let's move on to is the introduction of Brandon Ross, one of my favorite people on the planet. Let's give a little background info on BJ. He is currently working as a handheld engineer machinist guy. He's excellent at his job. He designs all kinds of cool stuff. In high school, he was reading in the 5th percentile on the SATs, but he couldn't tell anybody that because he didn't know how to read what was written on the test results.
God, he's so illiterate. What does that even mean?
What does that even mean?
BJ,
the one thing that I was thoroughly impressed with talking to him was just the fact of how on top of it he was. Like, some people you talk to and they have a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But, I'd send him these texts and the results I was getting back, I was like, Jesus, he might even know more than me. Made me a little nervous. Maybe a little, pee in my pants, especially since he's in my division.
Yeah.
I know the one thing that he's probably going to have to overcome besides just, being the new guy in the learning curve is he is in a tough draft position. Just from past history. Past history shows that the two people that win it, or the two people, not necessarily the two people win it, but the two people that are in the championship have a difficult time just making back to the playoffs. Eugene's an outlier because that was the most ridiculous season I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Do you think he's the new league X factor? Do you think he's going to shake things up?
From what you tell me about him being on top of it, maybe. Who knows? I think as a social player, I think that would be great to have another younger player.
Yep. I think he's got a little spice.
To react to the message boards, make memes, GIFs, add his own input. That'd be great. Instead of setting his lineup and just leaving, like some other people. No names required. But
but
and then finally someone else that can finally lose besides Chris, Doug, Tackett, and you.
Oh, so, I appreciate you naming me in there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How many championships have you been in?
Oh yeah. When was your last championship? Chicago
2008.
Cubs?
2008.
Chicago Cubs.
Chicago. I appreciate that. That's really nice of you. The one thing that I think BJ is going to have to live up to though is the person whose spot he is taking has been in 3 championships and won 2 of them.
Yeah.
So that's going to be kind of tough. Let's go to break and we'll be back in a few minutes. Brought to you by MaxiPad. For when your underwear screams red rum, put one of these between those 2 labia. MaxiPad. All right, James, let's do a recap so everybody's up to date on how much they sucked last year.
Where do you want to start? At the very ass end of the league?
Let's start at the bottom of the bowl, so to speak. Let's go with Doug.
Last place. Doug, were you even alive last season? Were you even there? I mean, every time you ask, hey, David, how do I set my lineup? You've been doing this for 8 years.
Come on, man. It ain't rocket science.
Jeez and crackers. I'm done talking about trash.
I know. Well, you know what? That's what happened when you use dial-up internet still. He blew his first-round draft pick, plain and simple. Charles ended up being, I wouldn't call him a bust, but he was the closest thing to a bust.
Mediocre. Bad.
Yeah, and you know what's even crazier? That's the only other time, I think, since 2008, your Donald Driver days, where somebody who has had the first-round pick didn't even make the playoffs the next year. Not only that, but he failed to stay up to date on a lot of his moves and grooves, wasn't able to make smart trades. I wouldn't even call them smart trades. He just didn't make trades that benefited him or, actually made his team worse.
I've never liked Doug's trades. I gave Adam P. Chris Johnson because I feel bad.
Don't even get me started on that. And then, what the crazy thing is his team wasn't even that bad. But his team was so mediocre that he somehow let Eugene's team pass him up in the playoffs. Let's move on to Adam.
Man, God. Why do you make the same trade as you did last year? You were easily the worst team in the league last year.
Let's do that. It seemed to work so well for you. How fast did you fail to come into the Turd Bowl this year? I know the years before, that's worked out in quotations for you, but you still haven't, pulled it out. with just drafting normal, doing, you make more trades than Kevin Costner on draft day. I know you love that movie.
Facto, he's not very good at pulling out.
Oh, that's a good one, but it's true. He loves Kevin Costner, and he absolutely loves the movie Draft Day.
And then he does all these, spreadsheets, probably more than Chris, and you make fun of Chris for making spreadsheets all the time.
I know, Mr. Spreadsheet.
He puts all these hours into fantasy football, and his master plan every year never works out, and I just don't get it.
Yeah.
And he made the same trade this year, Tackett. Now Tackett's got what, 2 second-round picks?
Yeah.
Good God.
2 first rounds. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So let's move on to the most glorious 2008 championship to be sitting on this interview.
God, will you stop talking about it?
I'm not going to stop talking about it because I've been in a championship. I've won, James. I've lived.
Oh, yeah, when the first year when everyone didn't know what they were doing.
James, do you plan on...
And you just got lucky.
Okay. Well, oh, you know what? I'll be honest. I had a terrible draft last year. I thought I was going to somehow trick
Here's my notes. You suck.
Oh, that was pretty good. And you didn't spell it right. So that makes it even better. I'll admit, Monty Ball, kind of a bust. I think I'm, it was probably the worst one since Donald Driver. Let's move on to your bros of Christopher Weingart.
Typical bitch who gave up and then
FCC.
And then out of nowhere he had the light at the end of the tunnel and he came out kind of okay.
Kind of okay. He did. He got the first round pick. What's he going to do with it this year? Is he going to do his typical if he's not 4-0 after those first few weeks? It's almost like it just drops off and he disappears.
I don't know what his plan is. Sometimes he brought up Donald Driver for his first pick for the first round, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I shook his hand. I was like, that's a good pick.
That's a good pick. Oh, you know what? I will give Chris the fact that he did win a championship, something many people haven't done, like yourself. And I am going to bring up the fact that
those were the rim job days.
I know those were, but the big thing about that though is consistently being in the playoffs and consistently doing well. That's a whole different thing, and there are people in this league that do that. Chris is not one of them. 2012 was his year. Since then, he has been a bust, losing 10 games the next season. And last year, probably could have pulled out a playoff spot if he, really, gave it his all there at the end, but he didn't.
I can't wait to see the look when he shows up at the draft and they go, "Hey, Chris, you're first." He's gonna be like, "What am I gonna do?"
I know. Well, not only that, but
those confused looks he gives.
You know what it reminds me of? It's like that marathon guy that trains constantly, and then right at the end, he just collapses.
Falls off,
yeah, he didn't get his Gatorade, I guess.
Pressure.
So. Let's move on to yourself, James. I'll go ahead and talk about it first. So, are you going to succeed once again at mediocrity? Because you do so well at mediocrity.
Last year, David, I was just drunk. I don't know what I was doing. I drafted MJD in the 5th round, I think, something stupid like that.
Yeah, well,
lost the game all those beers out to his place, and then we played wiffle ball, and I just kind of zoned out. I just didn't know.
I'll give you that. I mean, you seem to be pretty consistent, finishing 3rd place 3 years in a row, finishing 2nd place 2 years in a row. It looks like you're probably going to do that again this year. And you know what my advice would be? Probably using some sort of magazine that you use from this decade. Because
Playboy?
Yes. But, I mean, when you're talking to me about picking Brian Westbrook, I have a little bit of concern.
He's great. He's a great player.
He was a great player.
Great player and great man.
He was a great player. Let's move on to one of our favorite people in the league, Justin.
I think he just had a typical average season, as he always does.
I mean, Justin, he was the tippy top before Jansen was Jansen.
Yeah.
It was Justin, and Justin made the championship 3 years in a row. Granted, he lost 2 of them, but he did win, and he had a great team.
He threw us a curveball last year.
Yeah, he did, but at the same time, I mean, he kind of ruined my draft. I'll be honest. I had Arian Foster and probably 95% of the mock drafts I picked, and he threw that curveball at me. And I picked Monty Ball. And it paid off. Yeah, it really paid off.
Messed up your mind.
Yeah. But, I mean, he has a lot to prove this season, not just because of where he's finished in the past seasons, but I think even more so because the division that you guys are in, I'm talking about Justin, Jansen, Adam, Chris. You guys are in a very tough division, and it's going to be very interesting to see who comes out at the end of the tunnel.
Well, losers.
But, I mean, it's going to be real interesting. Let's move to one of our other favorite people, Tackett.
I said, without Adam's trade, you'd probably still pick Trent Dilfer with your regular picks. Good God.
I'm not, no. Tackett, I will give, the first few seasons was definitely a learning curve.
I took better shits than his teams.
Okay, well, that's being a little harsh. And then, I feel like, too, with Tackett, that, he's been handed these gifts. And last year was his best shot. Granted, I think he could do it again this year just simply because of the fact that Adam was dumb enough to make the trade again. His team lost a lot of momentum in those final few weeks. But I can tell you right now,
that just shows that
he's really hungry. He is so hungry for this championship because when I talked to he had money set aside to go on a vacation to Tennessee with that money he would have won. And then what happened?
You know what else he's hungry for? Kids.
That is, and he's doing a good job. Congratulations on number 4. Beautiful family. We love them all. Let's move on to our other, probably the most glorious person in this league.
Oh, the team with that's got it's just so money.
So money, so balla, so beast.
So lit.
Adam, my man Lawson.
I think he should have won it all easy last year.
You know what?
Yeah, the number one QB, the number one running back. His QB was Aaron Rodgers, and he had DeMarco, and then he had the number 2 wide receiver, which is Jordy Nelson. He had that 1-2 punch.
He did.
Unbelievable.
But do you know what? I mean, it's weird that, most of the best teams that do the best during the regular season tend to have that bust in the playoffs. Very few teams
that's what
get
I was about to
bye.
say with Tackett. Like his team, he those two had the best teams.
Absolutely.
And then that just goes to show us fantasy football. You need that luck.
Yeah, Lawson.
Perfect example, Eugene.
Yeah, exactly.
But his luck lasted 13 weeks.
Well, I mean, the thing with Lawson, too, is that not only did he have a good trade, he had a great trade for Rodgers from McCoy. He had a good draft to start with. His team was probably the most consistent team throughout the whole entire year.
He had the most high scoring defense of the Bills.
I know there's something going on with his research where he knows what he's doing. Granted, the transactions can get a little out of whack, but I think that's probably going to change this year. Let's move on to the man that's no longer going to hear this unless he wants to somehow join us somehow. Yeah, Eugene.
How in the world did he even make it that far?
I don't know. It was his swan song, his Brian song.
He was the most
and he went out like a man that was dying.
Lowest scored points against. Like
it was. I know. It was.
No one could beat him.
Yeah.
It's just stupid.
And it was ridiculous because he's putting up 70 points and winning games, and we have people putting up 80, 100 points and losing consistently like that.
Yeah.
The one thing I will give him is that he did go out with a bang, man.
Yeah.
He lost by 1 point. That was probably
Russell Wilson.
Russell friggin' Wilson. I called him on the phone, and his response was Russell friggin' Wilson. He probably repeated it 4 or 5 times. That's how. But you know what? Good luck to Eugene. He did win 2 championships. If we do start a Hall of Fame, more than likely he's going to be the first introductory. So enjoy retirement, sir. Right off into the sunset.
God bless you, Eugene.
We love you, bud. Next person. I mean, how do you talk about this guy? Where do we even start?
He's so good.
He's
so good. He's the king of fantasy.
He's the king of fantasy.
And pizza.
He's like Michael Jackson, Justin Timberlake, and David Hasselhoff all rolled up into one as far as his ability. Maybe even Tom Cruise.
I like to have those guys roll up in my bed, if you know what I'm saying.
I know you would. Let me list off what Jansen did last year and is doing this year. 3 Fox Bowl championships, 4 Fox Bowl appearances, best record in the league as far as playoff goes. He has 3 division championships, most single points in a season. And this fall, he's actually going to be starring with you in a film about pizza. I believe it's called Stuff My Crust Part 9. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen the first 6.
As if the first 8 weren't good enough.
Well, it's weird because I said 7, so why don't you listen? All right, bud.
I'm still drunk.
Let's move on to the mock draft, where we and James give our input as to where we think people are going to pick. First up, Chris.
Yeah. Who do you think?
I think he's going Eddie Lacy.
That's what I said.
I know.
I think he's the best pick. I think best pick for running backs this year.
Offensive wise, best pick for running backs. Next pick, me. I'm not going to say who I'm going to pick. I'm going to let James see who I pick.
I think you're going Marshawn Lynch.
Interesting.
I think he's the next top elite running back, and he's got that offense now. Yeah. Offensive line, little sketchy still, but it's Marshawn Lynch, beast mode.
Plus, he has Graham pulling people off on the line, which I think is going to help him a lot. Plus, Graham's a hell of a blocker.
For sure.
Solid. Tackett. Who do you got Tackett picking?
I think he'll go Charles.
If I don't pick Lynch, I think he goes back to Lynch. He picked Lynch last year. He absolutely loved him.
Very true.
Lynch is probably, granted, he's never a guy that has a whole lot, especially during the regular season. He's not a guy that, thoroughly impresses with his runs. He just levels people, and he's a hard-nosed runner.
Yeah.
He probably gets you 15 to 20 points a week, and he's just a guy, and you like him. I don't know what it is, but you like him. He's just a fun guy to watch. I see him going Lynch. I could possibly see him going Charles, but I think he's going to stick with it. Who do you think Dougie Fresh is picking?
He's going to go AP for sure, I think. He'll be the one that goes AP.
You think he will?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he might take Foster or AP. If AP falls back that much, it'll be interesting. Yeah. You know what? I did think that Doug is probably going to pick, he could be crazy because that one year he picked Peyton Manning just to pick him. But I think Doug's going to be smart this year. He's got a lot to prove. In my pre rankings, Doug did very well. The next pick, James.
I think BJ's going to go Arian Foster.
I think BJ will do a running back too. Yeah. Foster is a guy that, granted, he's the one you always worry about with his injuries, but he always seems to pull out a solid season. It doesn't matter how.
But then in the middle of the season, there's always something that comes up with his injury. His hamstrings are just bearable, like on a running back.
Yeah.
So
all right, and then next, our main man Jansen.
I think he's gonna go Forte.
He's a big Forte fan.
Your brother, plus
Jansen
your brother
tends-
brought up, like, Jansen's very consistent with his draft picks.
picks.
He likes consistency with players.
Yeah.
That's why he's probably so consistent with how good he is.
It's true. And not only that, but
So-
Jansen, I know that Jansen's had Forte, I think, multiple times in the past, at least
Yeah.
once or twice. I know definitely one.
Yeah.
And I think Jansen's really into those players that, like the
Versatile.
He's had McCoy multiple times. I mean, he likes the players that are more than a
He
running
likes all-purpose yards.
Yeah. And then let's move on to the next one, Lawson. I think he's a no-brainer.
DeMarco Murray.
DeMarco Murray. The man loves DeMarco Murray. And it makes sense because he destroyed with him last year.
I think he bought his New Jersey. I'm pretty sure.
He did too. But
Check out this New Jersey I bought, bro.
But Lawson, I don't expect you to pick him somewhat just because the offense he's on. I don't think he's going to have the kind of season he did. If you're asking me, should you pick him? No, don't do it. I don't think you will either. But me and him both definitely think there's a real possibility you might do it. Justin.
I think he's going to throw us a curveball this year and pick Bell at 9.
Bell.
Le'Veon Bell.
I don't know. You missed 3 weeks of the season. That's a huge impact. One of the people I could see him picking.
But he's got the roundabout too, so he can.
Justin. I could see Justin picking Jeremy Hill.
I could see that too.
I could definitely see that.
But he's got the hardest schedule, and I don't know if people take that into effect or anything
That's
like
true.
that.
Now, but see, when you say hardest schedule, that's based on stats from last year, not necessarily this year. So that always changes.
Plus, he's in the AFC North with some of the hardest defenses to go against.
Yeah,
but he proved himself last year. Though.
Not only did he prove himself, but he's another guy too. Probably the best combo in the league. Him and Bernard. I mean, he's got another guy he can lean on too.
But honestly, I don't think they're going to rely on Bernard that much this year because, he proved himself so much. And I mean, he's going to get a ton of carries.
Yeah.
Well, a ton of carries.
I think he will too. The last pick, Bud.
What do you think I'm going to get?
Well, you're going to pick back to back. So, I mean, I'll go ahead and throw 2 names out there. I think you could pick McCoy. I think that's a real possibility. I think if you go wide receiver, which you're probably going to do on your second pick, vice versa, probably Beckham. He just was a monster last year, and I think he's just going to absolutely unload this year, too.
No, you don't think the sophomore slump's going to happen? Or Eli's just going to fall apart?
Nope.
Or the Giants are just going to...
I think Eli's going to have his typical season, but I think Beckham is absolutely going to dominate. We're not talking those great catches he had last year, but he's just a yards guy, and he gets touchdowns, and he gets it done.
He's just an athlete, too.
He's phenomenal.
And he can make those a crazy amount of catches.
Yep.
And I think some of those people don't take that into effect. I mean, that could be, that could be a game. That could be a win compared to a loss.
Yeah.
So, who knows? We'll see.
All right, we're going to go to a break. We'll be back in a few minutes.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Mantasy Fantasy Podcast. So we're about to go into the 2015 Mantasy Draft over-unders. David, what are some of the over-unders we have that we think we're going to happen at the draft this year?
Okay, how many times does Lawson say money, beast, or get on my blank on winning? Bro, or try this beer?
I say... if we combine all of those, more than 100, easy.
I'm saying 3. Lawson's going to be focused this year. He's pissed about last year. He comes in sharp, focused.
But you know how he is. He walks through the door and he has to say something about it.
He's going to, I guarantee it. I think he is.
How many times is he going to mention his new Hummer?
It's not new. It's not new. He won't mention the Hummer at all. I will say I'm going to have a lot of surprises at the draft for a lot of you people, so be heads up.
Oh, watch out, guys. They're going to have his penis out.
Well, that's a given.
That's a big surprise.
That's not a surprise.
Just joking. That's a pretty little surprise.
Okay, James, how many times are you going to refer to your sexuality other than straight? And how much pizza do you plan on having with Jansen at the draft?
Oh, a whole pizza.
Oh.
Whole meat lovers pizza.
Okay.
That's already one gay reference. You can count that as one already.
Okay, what year is the magazine you're going to be drafting from?
2013.
Wow, that's pretty up to date for you, James. You might have a solid.
It's a third place year. So.
That is a third place year. You just have to use a few years back. It seems to be a successful thing for you.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any goals? I mean, I know you're looking at the tippy top this year. Making it to the top of the mountain. Do you think you're going to finish in that beloved second place this year?
I think I will. I think this year will be the year. I'm actually doing a lot of research, a lot of mock drafts. A lot of magazines I've been reading. 2015 magazines. Whoa.
Take
Watch
a step back.
Watch
That's already outdated. All right, let's move
out.
on to the next person. How many times do you think Chris is going to look at his draft plan and be utterly confused?
Oh, right from the get-go. When someone says, all right, Chris, you're on the clock, he's going to freeze.
I think so, too. I mean, he's the guy that always waits the last second on his draft as far as the time goes. I remember one time...
Do you think he'll wait till the very last second on his first pick?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it could be auto-draft. It could wait that long. But I also think, it's funny. A few years ago, he had a draft, and you could just tell he was frustrated during the draft.
Oh, yeah.
And... He got outside, and the whole draft, he's just looking at his thing like it was, from Mars or written in some type of foreign language. And we get outside and start talking to him, and he goes, man, after that second round, my picks were just awful. I was glad he thought it.
At least he admits it.
At least he admits it. That's a good thing. Let's move on to Adam P. Do you think he's going to offer trades for the 2016, 17, 18? And, I mean, he could go for years.
I think he'll offer trades for the 2015 draft while we're still there.
Yeah, I can
Plus
see
for
that.
players for the future reference. So if someone will draft him, be like, oh, you want to trade right now?
Absolutely.
So I think he'll make multiple trade attempts.
Okay. How many times will Jansen draft somebody and then blame it on a dog? Or a better question, how many dogs do you think Jansen will have us bring to the draft?
I have no clue. And I know we were bringing dogs to the draft.
Well, Jansen's already talked to me. He would like as many dogs as possible so he can backtrack on
What's
any
he trying to do?
picks.
Is he playing mind games with us?
I think so. I mean, he blamed it on Lawson's little puppy last year. It seemed to work well for him. And even that pick that he ended up trading for, it seemed to work out well for him.
It was Brandon Marshall and who's the Broncos tight end? I forget his
He's
name.
not with them anymore. I can't even think.
But
Thomas.
it was between them two.
And it ended up paying off.
And luckily, Tackett was picking Thomas too, so you lucky bastard, Jansen.
That seemed to work well. How many computer monitors do you think Jansen brings this year? Do you think it's going to look like something out of the Matrix, like when you walk into the room and, the one is there?
You know what? He might just use his big screen in his basement.
I could see that. Another question, and it's the one that...
He'll probably have a computer monitor from an old Mac monitor
Yes.
from 1999
Like a
just to
green
freak
one.
us out.
Yeah, just to throw us off. Now, the big question that we're all wondering, that beautiful, lovely Fox trophy that we had made this season, how many times do you think he has consummated his relationship with the trophy?
None.
None?
None.
You think he's going stag? He's gonna put it off and save himself for the last week?
Yeah.
And just have this giant it'll look like a yogurt factory blew up in there.
I love yogurt.
I do too. Okay, let's move on to me. How many times do you think I will refer to my glorious 2008 championship?
God.
I mean, I've already done it twice so
It's
far.
probably going to be an ultimate amount of times because you always try to rub off your knowledge on other people with their draft picks and on their draft strategies, and you could, like the Marshall Falk of our league, he refers back to his 2002 Rams.
That's the greatest show on turf. Where do you think Monty Ball is going to be drafted? Or where do you think I start talking about drafting Monty Ball? Better question.
Probably third round.
Okay.
I think CJ Anderson will be gone by then, and people.
I'm surprised.
Then you'll bring it up.
I'm gonna shake things up like I did last year. I'm picking a Jaguars running back. Maybe they're second or third. I don't know, but definitely first round. That's where they're gonna go. Okay, how many kids do you think Tackett is gonna have by the draft?
Oh God, how many does he have now?
I don't know. I've lost count. It's getting. I mean, I don't know their names anymore.
I think we
I
can't
wrote
count on
them
our
down.
fingers.
We get 3 Christmas cards from their family because they can't fit them in the picture. It's getting outrageous. They're.
I heard he's got like a Harry Potter situation going. He's thrown them some of them in the closet.
I know. I good for him though. Love the family. You know what? Another thing I'd like to talk about his intensity. He's already benefited from the trade. He's got the biggest advantage going into the draft.
He's got the biggest load waiting for this draft.
Yes, he does. And you know what? He wants this championship because he hated watching his team go bust last year. Okay, let's move on to Justin. Is he finally going to break out of mediocrity? Is he finally going to get serious? Is he finally going to win or at least make it to a turd bowl again? Or is he just going to kind of hang on that little, precipice of okay?
Those 7 to 9 spots in the draft are the hardest, places to pick, and he's number 9, so.
Yeah.
I don't think he will unless he makes like an absurd trade or like anything, any lucky trade, anything. As long as he gets a lucky breakout, I think he will.
Yeah. Well, here's my question for Justin. Where are the stats? How come I don't have any stats? Justin, you got to come up with those staffs. They're missing worse than Jimmy Hoffa right now. We've got to find them.
Ooh!
I don't care if you don't have a computer. Steal one from somebody. Go to Rent-A-Center. Rent one for the weekend. Get these 2015 stats done or 2014 stats done so we can have them going into the next season. Okay, BJ, how many times will he talk about hockey?
I don't know. You know him more than I do, so I can't really put a
Better question.
price
Do you
on
think he's going to want in on your pizza?
I hope he does.
I hope he does.
I
too.
hope he got the message in the first meme of the year.
Yeah, I think he did.
And he still has to go through initiation. And I'm locked and I'm loaded.
I love how you.
And
always
I'm
bring
loaded,
that up.
all right.
Well,
loaded.
ladies and gentlemen,
Loaded.
we actually have a special guest with us today.
Supposed to guess. Woo, woo!
The one and only, Dougie Fresh. Dougie, how are you doing?
Absolutely fantastic, Dave and James. Glad to be here.
Glad to be here too.
Glad to be here.
Okay, are you gonna fall asleep during the draft?
No, I'm going to mispunch my numbers in there and forget it this time.
Okay, do you know what
Perfect.
site we're drafting from this year?
Yes, NFL.com.
Oh,
Yes,
perfect.
bingo.
Yes,
You're already on the
good.
right track. So
We're
last
playing
year,
with 9 players this year.
I don't think I've heard an individual click their computer screen that much in my entire life. It was like you were panicking that there was some type of device that was going to blow up or something. You were magoobering the computer, let's say.
Yes, I had a fart stuck sideways. I'm sorry.
Well, Doug, the big question is, you bombed last year, without a doubt. Are you going to come back hard this year? Because, we haven't even chosen your team name. You've
Which
got
is
a lot
we got to
right.
bring that up sometime here soon. Is
Yeah.
that going to be at the discussion on Sunday
I think
night?
we're going to do that possibly this weekend. Also, it could be something we discuss in our next, podcast possibly. Doug, you're a man who does always, you do well during the regular season. I'll give you that. Not always, but you do. But you are just a bomb in the playoffs. I don't think you've ever won a playoff game. Has
Ever.
it?
One playoff
He
game.
might-
One playoff game.
One playoff game, yes.
Well, is this the year where you get serious about it, where you come through and finally make something of yourself? My pre rankings, just this. I know this sounds stupid, but it's purely based on where you draft at. Since we switched the draft, has you coming in first place.
What do you think, Marvin Lewis?
Well, actually, I've had conversations with Goodell, and I have great insights this year.
Goodell's an idiot, Doug.
Great background, great stats, people coming on my board, my team, and
What's your secret?
can't tell you. It's top secret.
You know Goodell killed Kennedy, right? He lies so much, I don't even believe
I thought
him.
him
Where are
and-
you getting your
I thought
info
him
from?
and
No wonder you
Os-
suck
I
every
thought
year.
him and Oswald did that. Oswald.
Well, Doug, you know what? I think it's going to be interesting. You're in a division where you could definitely compete this year. A lot of people that are just kind of more laid back and more just are here to enjoy the league. I think you could make something for yourself. Can you give us any clues as to who you're picking for?
I'm going to keep that top secret, Dave and James.
Can you at least give us a position? One position. Can you do that?
Running back, wide receiver, tight
Are we
end,
going to break
quarterback.
this
Just say
news?
it,
Are
just
we
say
going to
it.
break this news like Adam Schaefer?
It could be a running back. It could be a quarterback.
No.
I'll give you that much.
Running
might
back or
pick
quarterback at the 4?
My picking quarterback.
Whoa.
That's gonna be real interesting. Well, Doug.
Remember the year I picked Manning now?
Yes, that was not a smart
That's my
pick.
number.
Yeah, it was 2015, I think.
Okay, for our next segment, we're going to bring you a segment that Doug is going to be establishing for us.
Hello?
Pemberton residents, eat button, shut up.
That was Eat Button Shut Up, brought to you by Doug Pemberton. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a blast. This is our first Mantasy Fantasy podcast. We're going to try to do this more often once the season starts. I'm Dave, all day dog Pemberton.
And I'm James Full Frontal Weinken.
And we will see you next month before the draft. Peace out, everybody.